The echoes of a steady hand. The San Francisco night clung to a damp 50-degree as Elon Musk's Tesla Model S sliced through the fog. Its silent hum a stark contrast to the roar of his thoughts. He'd left the Fairmont Hotel minutes ago, the $500 a night suite abandoned in favor of a mission that had crystallized in his mind since leaving the Bayview Brew Cafe earlier that evening. The clock on the dashboard read 9:30 p.m. Jolie would be finishing her cafe shift soon, boarding a $2 bus for the 12-mile trek to Oakland, then starting her night cleaning job on Market Street at 10 p.m. He couldn't let her vanish into that routine again. Not after seeing her wipe tables with arthritic hands at 85, her silver hair catching the dim light like a ghost from his past. The $100 bill he'd left under his coffee cup felt like a hollow echo of the debt he owed her, a debt he was only beginning to measure. Tom sat in the front passenger seat, his phone glowing as he relayed updates from the private investigator. "She's still at the cafe, sir. Shift ends in 15 minutes. Bus stops 2 blocks east, line 72 to Oakland. Departs at 8:10 p.m. Elon nodded, his jaw tight, staring out at the city's blurred lights as they sped toward the Bayview district. The contrast between their lives had hit him hard earlier, his $200 billion empire against her $25,000 a year struggle. But now something deeper stirred. Jolie hadn't just been a nanny caught in the grind of survival. She'd been the steady hand that shaped his mind, the quiet force behind the dreams that launched rockets and rewired the auto industry. He needed to see her again, not just to bridge the gap, but to understand how much of him was still hers. The Tesla pulled up a block from the cafe, its sleek frame incongruous against the weathered storefronts and flickering streetlights. "Stay here," Elon told Tom and the driver, stepping out into the cool air. He pulled his hoodie tighter, the fog curling around him like a shroud, and walked toward the cafe, his sneakers scuffing the uneven sidewalk. Through the window, he saw her. Jolie, still in her blue and white uniform, wiping down the counter with that same deliberate rhythm he'd noticed hours ago. Her shoulders stooped, her hands trembled slightly, but there was a purpose in her movements that tugged at him, a memory of Pretoria summers when she'd turned his chaos into order. He pushed open the door, the bell jingling softly, and the barista glanced up, her bored expression shifting to mild curiosity. Jolie didn't notice him at first, her focus on a stubborn coffee stain, until he stepped closer. "Jolie," he said, his voice low but firm. She paused, rag in hand, and turned, her brown eyes widening with surprise. "Ellie?" she said, the nickname slipping out like a reflex, her accent wrapping it in warmth. "You're back?" Confusion creased her weathered face, but a faint smile flickered, softening the deep lines around her mouth. "I couldn't wait until tomorrow," he said, stepping nearer. "Can we talk? Just for a few minutes?" She glanced at the clock, 7:58 p.m., then at Mr. Davis, the manager, who was counting receipts behind the counter. "My shift's done," she said, untying her apron with shaky fingers. "But the bus—" "Forget the bus," Elon interrupted, gentler than he meant. "I'll drive you home, or wherever you need to go." Her eyes narrowed, pride flashing. "I don't need a ride, Nino. I've been getting by just fine." "I know you have," he said, meeting her gaze. "But I need to talk to you, please." She hesitated, then sighed, folding the apron over her arm. 5 minutes, then I've got my night job." She shuffled toward the door, pulling a faded sweater over her uniform, and Elon followed, holding it open as the fog swallowed them both. The Tesla waited curbside, its headlights glinting, and Tom stepped out to open the back door. Jolie stopped, staring at the car. A $100,000 machine that could have paid her rent for decades. "This yours?" she asked, a mix of awe and wariness in her voice. "Yeah," Elon said, almost sheepish. "Come on, it's warm inside." She climbed in reluctantly, settling into the leather seat with a stiffness that spoke of aching joints. Elon slid in beside her, and Tom took the front, the driver pulling away toward Oakland. The silence stretched, thick with the weight of years, until Jolie broke it. "You didn't have to come back, Ellie. I'm nobody special." "That's where you're wrong," he said, turning to her. "You're why I'm here. Not just tonight, but all of it. SpaceX, Tesla, everything. You don't even know, do you?" Her brow furrowed, confusion deepening the lines on her face. What are you talking about? Elon leaned back, the leather creaking softly, and let the memories spill out. You remember Pretoria, the kitchen table covered in paper planes? I was 6, folding them wrong, crashing them into the wall. You didn't laugh. You showed me how to angle the wings, said, "Think about the air, Nino. It's invisible, but it's real." I still use that. Every rocket we launch, every design tweak, it's about the air. Jolie's eyes softened, a faint smile tugging at her lips. You were a messy boy, always tinkering. I just kept you from breaking everything. No, he said, shaking his head. You taught me balance. At 7, I built a rocket, wood and glue, wobbly as hell. It fell apart on the first try. You sat with me in the garden, 85 degrees out, adjusting the fins, saying, "Balance, Nino. Without it, even the strongest rocket falls." I say that to my engineers now, $60 million launches, and it's your words. She looked down at her hands, folded in her lap, the red knuckles stark against her pale skin. I didn't know, she said quietly. I was just there. You were more than there, he pressed, his voice steady but urgent. When my folks fought, Dad yelling, Mom crying, I'd hide with my books. You'd bring me apple slices, sit with me, not saying much. One night, a storm hit. 80-degree, humid, thunder shaking the house. I couldn't sleep. You taught me the Southern Cross. Find it when you're lost. I still look for it, Jolie, every time I'm stuck. Her smile widened, faint but real, tears glinting in her eyes. You were scared of the dark back then. I'd count the stars with you till you nodded off. And after the bullies, he continued, 8 years old, bloody nose from some kid who didn't like my questions. You cleaned me up, said, you have a special mind, Ellie. They'll see it someday. That stuck. I kept asking, kept building because you believed I could. Jolie shook her head, a soft laugh escaping. You were a stubborn little thing, always asking why the sky was blue, why cars couldn't fly. I didn't have answers, just kept you going. You gave me more than answers, he said, leaning closer. At 9, Dad smashed my rocket, wood splintered all over the floor. I was done, crying, ready to quit. You stayed up past midnight, piecing it back with me. What can we learn from this? You asked. That's my whole damn life now. SpaceX, Tesla, every failure's a lesson because of you. She stared at him, her breath catching. I didn't teach you that, Ellie. You were born with it. No, he insisted, voice firm. You shaped it. I left Pretoria at 17, chasing dreams you planted, rockets, cars, stars. PayPal sold for $165 million because I wouldn't quit. Tesla's Gigafactory, 5 million square feet, runs on that question. What can we learn? SpaceX hit orbit because of balance. Your balance. You're in every billion I've made, every mile I've flown. The Tesla slowed as it entered Oakland, the streets narrowing, the lights dimmer. Jolie looked out, her hands tightening around her apron. I didn't do anything big, she said. I just cared. That was everything, he said, his voice softening. You saw me. Sensitive, weird, asking too much. Dad wanted me tough. Mom was busy surviving. You didn't just patch my knees, you patched my head, kept me dreaming when they couldn't. She wiped a tear with a trembling hand, the rag still clutched in the other. You were my little Nino. I wanted you safe, happy. And I wanted you proud, he said. I thought you'd left. 10 years old, science fair ribbon, and you were gone. Adult business, Mom said. I waited by the window, then forgot. But tonight, seeing you at 85 still working, $8 here, $10 there, it's not right. You built me, Jolie, and I've built this. He gestured vaguely at the car, the world beyond. While you've got nothing. I've got enough, she said, pride flaring again. I've lived my way. But you shouldn't have to, he said, frustration edging his voice. You gave me the stars. I've got $200 billion, 47 acres in Palo Alto, jets, factories. You're on a $2 bus, scrubbing floors in a city 12 miles from where I sleep in a $500 suite. That's not enough. It's not fair. She looked at him, steady despite the tears. Life's not fair, Ellie. You know that. I worked 2 jobs, 55 hours a week, because I had to. You worked your way, I worked mine. But I wouldn't have my way without yours, he said, leaning forward. Every rocket's fins, every car's curve, it's you. I need to fix this. Not just for you, but for me. To know the woman who made me isn't breaking herself at 85. The Tesla stopped outside 1427 Elm Street, a squat gray building with peeling paint and barred windows. Jolie reached for the door, but Elon grabbed her hand, gentle, insistent. Wait, I'm not letting you go back to that tonight. Come with me, I've got a plan. She pulled back, wary. No handouts, Nino, I told you. Not a handout, he said, eyes locking with hers. A job, real work, your wisdom. I'll figure it out. Just trust me. She studied him, the boy she'd raised, staring back through a man's face. 5 minutes turned into this, she said, a faint laugh breaking through. You're still stubborn. Learned from the best, he said, smiling. Let me drive you to Market Street tonight. I'll talk, you listen, then decide. She sighed, settling back. One night, then I choose. The car pulled away, heading downtown, and Elon began to speak. Of plans, of legacies, of a debt he'd repay not with money, but with purpose. Jolie's hands, rough and red, rested in her lap. The hands that had built him, now poised to reshape their story once more. The road to redemption. The San Francisco fog hung thick at 48 degrees as the Tesla Model S glided through the city's shadowed streets, its headlights slicing through the mist like a promise yet to be fulfilled. Inside, Elon Musk sat beside Jolie, the 85-year-old woman who'd once been the heartbeat of his Pretoria childhood, her frail frame swallowed by the plush leather seat. The clock on the dashboard read 10:05 p.m. They'd left her Oakland apartment behind, the squat gray building at 1427 Elm Street fading into the night as Elon had convinced her, after a tense exchange, to let him drive her to her night cleaning job on Market Street. The $2 bus ride she'd planned was off the table, at least for tonight, replaced by his insistence and a plea she'd reluctantly accepted. One night, Nino, then I choose. Jolie's hands rested in her lap, rough and red from decades of labor, clutching the faded apron she'd worn at the Bayview Brew Cafe just hours ago. Her silver hair caught the faint glow of passing streetlights, and her brown eyes, steady despite the exhaustion, watched the city blur by, a world she'd navigated on foot and public transit while Elon had soared above it in private jets. The silence between them was heavy, not with discomfort, but with the weight of years, 40 of them, stretching from a dusty Pretoria kitchen to this sleek $100,000 car humming through San Francisco's financial district. He'd seen her wipe tables at A5, learned she scrubbed floors for $10 an hour, and realized she'd shaped his $200 billion empire with lessons of balance and resilience. Now, their reunion was no longer a fleeting moment. It was a road unfolding, a journey he couldn't let end at a bus stop. Jolie, he began, breaking the quiet, his voice low but firm. This isn't just about tonight. I can't unsee what I saw. You, working 2 jobs, 55 hours a week at your age, it's not right. She turned to him, her gaze sharp despite the weariness. I told you, Ellie, no handouts. I've lived my way. $8 at the cafe, $10 at night. It's enough. It's not about handouts, he said, leaning closer, the leather creaking under his weight. It's about what you gave me. Everything I've built, it's got your fingerprints on it. Paper planes, rocket fins. What can we learn? You're in SpaceX, Tesla, all of it. I owe you more than a $100 tip or a ride. Her lips pressed into a thin line, pride warring with something softer in her expression. I didn't raise you for owing, Nino. I raised you to dream. You did that. I'm proud. That's enough. But it's not, he countered, frustration edging his voice. You're proud, I get it. 55 hours, $25,000 a year, no complaints. I've got $200 billion, 47 acres in Palo Alto, a jet that flies 600 miles an hour. You shaped me, Jolie, and I've let you scrape by while I've stacked billions. That's not pride, that's wrong. She looked away, Out the window at the towering office buildings lining Market Street, their glass facades reflecting the city's restless pulse. Life's not fair, Ellie. You know that. I worked my path, you worked yours. Your path shouldn't end scrubbing floors at 85, he said, his tone softening but insistent. Mine wouldn't exist without you. I'm not here to pity you. I'm here to fix this, to make it mean something. The Tesla slowed, pulling up to a 20-story office tower at 101 Market Street, its lobby glowing with sterile fluorescence. Jolie reached for the door, but Elon grabbed her hand, gentle, urgent. Wait, 5 more minutes. Hear me out. She sighed, settling back, her apron crinkling in her lap. You're still stubborn, she muttered, a faint smile breaking through. Learned from the best, he said, mirroring her smile. Look, I've got a plan. Not charity, a job. Real work, using what you know. You taught me balance, persistence, how to see problems differently. $60 million rockets fly because of it. I want you to teach others, my kids, my team, people who need it. Paid proper, your terms. Her eyes narrowed, skepticism etching deeper lines into her face. Teach? At my age? I'm no professor, Ellie. I don't have degrees, just stories and sore hands. You've got more than degrees, he said, leaning forward. You've got 85 years of knowing people, kids, me, how to keep going when it's hard. That's worth more than a PhD from Stanford, 30 miles south. My twins, Xavier and Griffin, they're 16, smart but lost in privilege. X, my toddler, he's 3, needs someone steady. You were that for me. $8 an hour can't measure it. Jolie shook her head, a soft laugh escaping. You want me chasing after teenagers and a baby? I can barely chase a bus. Not chasing, he said, grinning. Guiding. A few hours a week. Palo Alto, my place. I'll pay you what you're worth. $50 an hour. Not $10 ulcers. You tell stories, show them what you showed me. How to think, how to care. It's not a handout. It's a job only you can do. She studied him, her gaze piercing through the years. And what's this really about, Nino? Guilt? Fixing your conscience? No, he said, voice steady. Redemption. You gave me a start. 6 years in Pretoria, shaping a kid who'd have crumbled without you. I've flown 12,000 miles to space conferences while you've walked 12 miles to work. I've got to balance that. Give you back something real, not just money. The Tesla idled, the office tower looming outside, its clock showing 10:12 p.m. Her shift was minutes away. Jolie's hands tightened around her apron, her breath shallow. I don't know, Ellie. I've lived alone, worked alone since Teresa died. 12 years now. Oakland's my life. $600 rent, $2 bus rides. It's too much. It's not, he said, urgency rising. You're not alone anymore. I'm here. That cafe, that cleaning gig, I've bought them. $500,000 for the cafe, a $1.2 million for the company. Wages up, benefits in, especially for folks over 65. You don't have to go back unless you want to. But this, he gestured between them, this is bigger. You're not just my past, Jolie. You're my why. Her eyes widened, a flicker of shock breaking her calm. You bought them for me? For you, for everyone like you, he said. I saw you wince lifting that tray. 85, 2 jobs, no rest. I've got $53 million tied up in a factory 500 miles east, churning out batteries. I can't fix the world, but I can fix this. Start with you. She looked down, tears glinting on her lashes, then back up, her voice trembling. You're crazy, Nino. Always were. Rockets at 7, billions now. I can't keep up. You don't have to, he said, softening. Just come with me. Palo Alto tomorrow. Meet the kids. See what I mean. No strings. If it's not right, you walk away. But give me a chance to show you. The tower's security guard tapped the window, 10:15 p.m., time for her shift. Jolie sighed, wiping her eyes with a shaky hand. One day, I'll see your kids. $50 an hour is too much, but I'll listen. Then I decide. Deal, Elon said, relief flooding him. I'll pick you up, 8 a.m., Elm Street. No bus, no floors, just us. She nodded, stepping out into the fog, the guard ushering her inside. Elon watched her go, her small figure swallowed by the tower's glow. then told the driver, "Back to the Fairmont." The 12-mile return felt longer, his mind racing, not just with relief, but with a vision taking shape. This wasn't a simple fix. It was a journey, a redemption for the boy she'd raised and the man he'd become. Back in his suite, the city's lights sprawled below like a galaxy he'd dreamed of since Jolie's stories lit his nights. He'd left her at 10:20 p.m., her shift stretching to 2 a.m., while he'd sleep on a $5,000 mattress. The contrast still stung, her $25,000 a year grind against his billions. But now it was more. She'd shaped him. Paper planes at 6, rockets at 7, resilience at 9, and he'd soared while she'd faded. His phone buzzed, an email from his investigator. J. Vega Health. Hypertension, arthritis, early COPD. Untreated, $200 Mo meds unaffordable. His stomach twisted. $200 was a rounding error on his $1 billion projects. He paced, the hardwood cool under his feet, and called his chief of staff. "The cafe and cleaning company, done?" "Papers signed, sir. $1.7 million total. Wages up 20%, benefits rolling out." "Good," Elon said, "Babkas. Now something bigger. Guardian Angels Village. 30 acres, Menlo Park, apartments, clinic, gardens. For caregivers like Jolie, housing, stipends, a place to teach. $50 million start, $12 million yearly. Proposal by dawn." "Sir, that's..." "Do it," he cut in, hanging up. He sank into a chair, the 3000er leather creaking, and pictured it. Jolie not scrubbing, but guiding. Her wisdom lighting lives as it had his. Redemption wasn't just a job offer, it was a legacy, a bridge across their chasm. Sleep eluded him, memories swirling. Jolie's voice counting stars at 80 degrees in Pretoria, her hands steadying his at 9 when his world broke. By 3 a.m., he stood at the window, the city asleep below, and his phone pinged. "Tom." Jolie's shift ended. Took last bus home, 2:15 a.m. He winced. She'd worked 8 hours straight, 55 that week, while he'd paced a suite costing $500 a night. At 8 a.m., he'd be at Elm Street, not just to drive her, but to pull her into this journey. A revelation unfolding. A past reclaimed. The Tesla rolled out at dawn. The 12-mile drive to Oakland, a quiet pilgrimage. Jolie waited on the stoop, her sweater frayed but her eyes bright. She climbed in, wary but curious. "Your kids better be worth it, Nino," she said, a faint grin breaking through. "They will be," he said, smiling back. "And there's more. Something big. You'll see." As they drove west, the fog lifting to a 60-degree morning, Elon felt the weight shift. Not just redemption, but a partnership reborn. Jolie's hands, rough and red, rested in her lap, the hands that had built him, now poised to build again, their stories stretching beyond this ride into a future neither could yet fully grasp.